Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Is anybody out there? You got your ears on? What's going on, America? It's me, yours truly, comedian Mike Marino. This is live from my mother's basement, little pre-record. I got my new swag on, and I got a brand new guest who actually drove 2 hours from Atlantic City to the real basement here in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, just to sit with me and talk about what's going on in his world, and of course to get me on his show, which we just taped a little while ago. So now we're going to have some fun in the basement with the little pre-record. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, please say hello to Blake Rossell.
Mike,
What's up, man?
Mike, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man.
Pleasure.
Thank you for coming all the way to hell up the Parkway. This guy lives down in Atlantic City. What actually is the town?
So Margate, which is a shore town right next to Atlantic City.
Right.
It goes Margate, Ventnor, Atlantic City, then Brigantine. So we're all right next to each other. But Atlantic City is where I grew up, in that area, and growing up at the beach. It's a different mindset.
It's the greatest thing that could happen to anybody, as far as I'm concerned, because I grew up hanging out on the Jersey Shore. Our Jersey Shore fun times was Belmar.
Okay.
Belmar, New Jersey, in the 80s had 22 liquor licenses in a 1 mile square radius. So if you weren't polluted most of the time, I don't know where you were. Where were you? Everybody was just loaded. And you're talking at a time where there was no such thing as Uber. So most people just walked everywhere. You know, remember when you were back in the day and you were drunk walking down the street and you just said, you know what, here's a good spot to puke. Let me get it out so I can start drinking all over again.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's funny. Margate's like that too. Like in the summertime, first of all, in the winter, you have Atlantic City. It's always right there. So there's always something happening. You got restaurants, you got the casinos, you got everything. But also too, in Margate, they also have some nice restaurants, very upscale, fancy restaurants. People come down in the summer from Philadelphia, South Philly, and they all have their second homes. And the way Margate is people go out on the weekends, they get dressed up, they go to a nice dinner at a restaurant, and then they'll go out and they'll go to a local bar. Now, one of the biggest things, may I be remiss if I don't mention, about Margate, and one of the staples that was there for, let's just say, I think 50 years, was the last summer. I worked there. I had the honor to work for a man named Jerry Blavitt, the Geeter with the Heater. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
No, I don't know what that is. What is it? The Jeter with the heater?
The Geeter with the Heater.
The Geeter with the Heater.
The Geeter with the Heater. Now, he goes into a long spiel of how he got his name. Now, this man sadly passed away a couple months ago, back in January. But he was a legend, an icon. He was best friends with Sammy Davis Jr. He knew Sinatra. He was Don Rickles' valet years ago. And he's a local. He was a South Philadelphia legend. All over South Jersey. He had his club in Memories in Margate. It was all the oldies music. He's dear friends with Frankie Valli, Frankie Avalon, the Supremes. He got a lot of people that are starting their
Holy
career.
Shit.
Yeah, Mike, we could have a whole 3 hours about Jerry Blavitt.
Well, go ahead.
But I just want to tell you about how he made the Shore what it was. Working there, I did security for him, and I had the pleasure of being in his company. That gave Margate the feel, because people would go in there of all ages. Jerry influenced you whether you were 13 years old or you were 93 years old. Jerry had that stigma about him where he can make anybody, feel comfortable, and he brought people together through music. And that's why he was so iconic in what he did. And this is the first summer in 50 years without Jerry's place there. I mean, it's still there, but unfortunately it's not open right now. But I did want to add into that. That's one of the biggest part of Margate scene where I grew up, is Jerry Blavitt's Memories of Margate. And I'll have to go into some more depth on that and tell you a little bit more about Jerry's life.
That's really great. Memories in Margate. Yeah. And there always seems to be somebody from some area that people know or know about. And that's an incredible pedigree of people that he was friends with. I'd love to sit down and talk to somebody who was friends with guys like that, especially Sammy Davis Jr. I'm like, what was that like? I mean, I was telling you the other day, but that I was friends with and work with Dean Martin's daughter, Dina. Mm-hmm. And when she tells stories about the real Rat Pack, her father, her uncles, you just sit there and listen, because it's like, wow, because that's real. That's the real person. Not somebody saying, I met him on a street corner. No, this is the family that lived with him all the time. And then you get these stories that would blow your mind because she told me one day, "Oh yeah, I used to live next to next door to Lucille Ball." You're like, "What? What? Holy shit!"
Right.
And she knew Charles Manson, and it goes deeper than just the Rat Pack
Absolutely.
because they grew up in that area. So why would they call this guy Jeter with the heater? Or?
The Geeter with the Heater. Now he wrote a book called "You Only Rock Once," and this is a very spectacular book. And he goes on to telling in the book of how he got that name. All right, he was saying he said he was driving around, and I don't want to get the story wrong, but I remember what he was saying. He never told anyone what the actual why they called him that. But he said, "Read my book," and he always said, "Read my book." And I think he said he's driving around in the car with his friends on a hot summer night, right, or in a cold winter night, and he says that's where he got the name the Heater, right? So he said the Geeter, alligator, right? So he said he thought of alligator, okay, and he said the alligator is going to get you, okay, and he should like try to capture the moment, try to capture you by biting you, and then he said the heater. If it's too too hot, turn up that heater. All right, so he got this name when he was at a young age. He said, "The Geeter with the Heater." Now it's in the book. You Only Rock Once, which I do believe is still for sale. Through his website and through.
It's a great title. You only rock once.
Yeah.
Shit. You're lucky if you can rock once. But can I just rock twice?
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, but he went into and this is how he got the name and it stuck. The Geeter with the Heater, and he had this whole act, and this guy was incredible. Grew up on the streets of South Philadelphia. Came from an Italian mother, Jewish father, in those days, and he was loved by many. And he started on Bandstand in the 1950s. That's how he got his start. When it was Dick Clark was the man running Bandstand. Then it became, and then Bob Horn, then Dick Clark actually, and then he got his name on Bandstand, right? And then he started dancing. Then he got the Geeter Gold Radio. He started getting into radio in the 60s. And he just took off. And he used to have, and I'll have to show you some of his work. He had everyone, Dion and the Belmonts. He had everybody on his show and on his program. Smokey Robinson, Chubby Checker, Bobby Rydell, all these guys he was very good friends with. And
I don't even know Margate. Margate's close to
Atlantic
City.
About 10 minutes, yeah.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Margate. And then, see, I only know Atlantic City really because when we were younger, we would drive all the way down there from our shore area just to party like crazy because it was open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. And there were dance clubs back in the 80s that were just legendary down in Atlantic City. But I didn't really know the surrounding areas until I started performing in Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. So one of my favorite places down in Atlantic City area was Brigantine. Mm-hmm. Brigantine, folks, it's just like, does anybody know it exists? It's just this tiny little town that I'm hoping is still around because the superstorm Sandy really damaged the crap out of these areas because they're actually on peninsulas. I don't know if Brigantine is, but some of those towns on peninsulas just got wiped out because the water is on one side is the ocean, on the other side is a lagoon or a bay. And that's basically why so many of those areas got trashed because they didn't have a chance.
Right.
The ocean took one area, the bay took the other area, and you were underwater, especially places on the way to Atlantic City. I can't even think of any off the top of my head. But then the same area, to me, would be Wildwood.
Oh, yeah.
These are the most famous beach areas in that area because people do come from Philadelphia, Canada,
Yep,
but not way up North Jersey. Way up North Jersey does Seaside, Belmar, Spring Lake, Asbury Park. But if you go all the way down South Jersey, you'll even get Boston. Yeah. Because on the other side of Wildwood is pretty much, that's it. You're out of New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think the last area is Cape May.
Cape May is the lowest shore point of the bottom of New Jersey. And once you go past Cape May, you're hitting the Delaware River. And then you're getting on the Cape May Lewes Ferry and you're going to Delaware.
So a lot of people from those areas would come, especially to, of course, Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Because people from around the world were visiting there because there's casinos. So this is really great. So where were you actually born?
So I was born I grew up in Margate my whole life. but I was born in Summers Point. I didn't live in Summers Point, but that's where my mother had me, and then I grew up in Moorgate for all my life. That's where I've been, and really got to understand the surrounding areas in Atlantic City and all that stuff. And as a young kid, they used to have the Atlantic City surf baseball team up there. They used to have the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, the hockey arena. I don't know if you're familiar with Boardwalk Hall. It was the old convention hall.
Convention Hall. It was
Yeah.
called Boardwalk Hall?
It was called Convention Hall, but now it's called Atlantic City's Jim Whalen's Boardwalk Hall, and it's the same big arena where they do concerts, they do all that stuff. But it was a great town. It was a great area to grow up in. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And you're an hour from Philadelphia. You're about an hour and a half, 2 hours from New York. You're right in a great center of where everything's drivable distance, and a lot's happening down there. Lots happened in Atlantic City, and you said, Mike, you obviously performed down there many times, and you did a lot of shows.
Atlantic City, I think the first casinos were built in the 60s. Does that sound right?
So casino gaming license came to Atlantic City in '78. Was the first Bally's Park Place, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, 1978.
Bally's Park Place.
Now Atlantic City was just an old, dusted up seaside resort in the '60s. Kind of
Right.
like you go down there, it was just old abandoned homes, little boardwalk, and you had some families, a little resort. When the casinos came to Atlantic City is when it changed it changed the whole game. The Gaming Commission came to Atlantic City, opened Bally's Park Place in '78, '79. I want to say my Uncle Rick would correct me on that one, but that's when all that came to Atlantic City and just kind of gave it a jump
I
start.
thought Resorts Casino was the very first one. It's one of the oldest ones.
Resorts is the oldest one. I do remember. So Bally Park Place would have been the year after. Resorts was the original. You are right on that.
Resorts, and the only reason why
And
I
the
know
Sands Casino too.
one of the reasons why I know that is because Catch a Rising Star Comedy Club was inside Resorts for a long time. I used to
Okay.
go down there and perform. Then it went away, and now there used to be the Tropicana, Stop at the Trop, which I don't think is there anymore. Now the best place to do stand-up is the Borgata, and I guess the Hard Rock. I haven't been there yet. Or is there a new one? It used to be Revel.
The Revel,
Revel.
but that's not there anymore. Now that's the Ocean Casino.
Okay, so the Ocean Casino was the
Yeah.
Revel. I think it's the biggest casino down there, right?
Yes, yeah.
Or the biggest hotel.
The Revel's huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the best. It's
How
huge.
is Atlantic City doing? Is it back in gear? I mean, I'm sure the pandemic destroyed most of everything.
Well, I think Showboat one of the Showboat right there on the beach just brought in a water park for kids. And I think what they're trying to do, Mike, is they're trying to make it a family destination as well, not just adults gambling and
Well,
all
they
that.
should.
But they're trying to bring more attractions. You got the Atlantic City The Walks, which got all the shops, Reebok, Nike, a couple good restaurants, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, right? So they're trying to do a lot of things to really turn the town around. But Atlantic City's had this this battle for years, back and forth, tug of war, where it was doing well for like a hot minute, like in the '80s and the '90s. I heard the '90s because my uncle and my father worked in the casinos back in the day. They always said the '90s one of the greatest times for Atlantic City. You had the Trump Plaza, you had the Trump Castle, had Trump Taj Mahal. So
Trump, huh? Go figure. Was he successful down there?
Well, people would say, well, he brought these casinos down, they wrote him out, and he obviously went into bankruptcy and all that stuff with the casinos. But it's still at that time, the Atlantic City was booming, right? I'm not saying Atlantic City's not booming now. You still have your restaurants in the casinos, and you have your shows. There'll be people still come to the Hard Rock. The Hard Rock in Atlantic City actually did a good job I thought so, coming down to Atlantic City, opening another location, which was the old Trump Taj Mahal. The demolition project was a few years back. They wiped it out. They wiped the Trump Plaza out, and then the Taj Mahal they just converted to the Hard Rock, and now they had a whole liquidation sale, and and then they just basically they just turned into the Hard Rock, and now it's the Hard Rock Casino, and they have great shows coming in there. They have the center lobby bar downstairs. They got El Mulano, which I believe is a really good restaurant in there as well. So I like to think Atlantic City hopefully can stay active, and have some good things happen to it in the next 5 to 10 years, and that they keep that they keep the revenue, and they keep the people coming back. Right? It's all about experience, and people want to come back. They want to also feel safe too, Mike. They also want to feel safe. And the
Yeah,
Borgata is
wow.
one of my favorite casinos. I love the Borgata.
The only thing about the Borgata is not by the beach. I love being on the beach side. Atlantic City is just really, really super cool. But of course, the beach areas like a Margate are almost great family towns, great place to grow up. You go into the ocean in September, October with the locals, and you're going to just have a ball. So many. I grew up surfing. Obviously, the surfboards all around the house. When we would go down to the beach in September, October, and all the tourists were gone, you had the ocean to yourself, and the water's a lot warmer at that time of year. Most people don't know that. And the water's so warm, it's almost like a peach trough. And you get in there, but the waves are bigger, and it's a lot more fun. So that was my experience down there. So he's a Margate kid. What made you get into this business? Because obviously you're 6'7".
6'7".
6'7", Italian guy. They don't make Italians 6'7". I don't know how this happened. Maybe his mom is not Italian, but he's going to tell us because saying your last name over here is Rossell. My first thought was, well, he's not Italian, so Rossell, but obviously it was Roselli.
Yes, at one point.
So what happened?
So so my father's family's Italian, my mother's family's English, Irish, German, a couple other things mixed in there. My mom's from England, so we have about 7 cups of tea in the house a day. So she's just a sweet little English lady, and she got everybody on drinking tea. But my father's side Italian, and my great grandfather, came over here. Well, his great grandparents came over here from Sicily, and when they tried to get a job in Philadelphia, my great grandfather, great grandfather, they weren't hiring Italians, so he dropped the I off the Rossell, and he made Roselli, and he made it Rossell, and and it just stuck. And I always say to my dad, Dad, why don't we ever change it back? Why don't we change it back? I like the strong I. I like because everyone knows this. Everyone around town knows my dad as Roselli. Everybody he grew up with, right? Friends and went to high school with, and people.
They call him Roselli.
Well, yeah. So a couple people, they'll say, like one of the guys, the local sub shops down there. Every time in Dino's.
Sub shop.
Yeah.
The word sub shop, you get hungry in seconds. Sub shop. Oil and vinegar. I need a turkey. Go ahead.
So they always he'll yell Roselli. So he knows us from my grandfather growing up. My grandfather was a very well respected man down in Margate. He moved down from South Philadelphia later in his years when he got out of the service. His parent family moved down to Margate in Longport actually. So that's where the name Roselli was, and now it's Rossell. But I still try to carry the Italian tradition, even though I look Irish, but I got my dad's hair.
Hey, I look Irish. I wish I had somebody's hair. My father don't have any hair either. Roselli. My uncle's last name, who I imitate in my act, Uncle Tommy, his real last name is not Mastro. It's Mastro Giovanni. And the same thing, they came over and they cut their names up and said, no, we're going to fit in, right?
Yeah.
So my mother, who's from Italy, didn't speak to her 3 boys in Italian because she didn't want us to speak Italian.
Really?
So we grew up not speaking Italian. Imagine that. That's called wanting us to be American.
Yeah.
We don't really see that anymore. Now people say, get your culture, bring it over here, and shove it down everybody's throat. In fact, don't even speak English. Speak whatever you want and let the English-speaking people figure out what the hell you're talking about. I mean, there's a great deli in this town, and it was the original Quick Check. And you would get great sandwiches in the Quick Check. Well, now it's not Quick Check no more. It's, I don't know, Fasty Mart or something like that. Not only do they not speak English, they play foreign music. And they're wondering why their business is falling apart. And I feel like going in and go, do you realize where you opened your store?
Yeah.
Do you realize what these people are doing? They're all happy-go-lucky, English-speaking people from different parts of the world. And you came in here and said, nah, we're not going to do that. And we're going to play music that you're going to hate. And we're going to sell products that are going to be like, these people need this? There are no people in this town buying a hookah. It ain't happening. They'll buy some cigarettes. That's pretty much it. And you know what's really funny is they serve pork roll, egg and cheese on a roll, and I see them look at it, and they're like, these people like this crap? I'm like, well, what would you think you were going to sell? A kafta or some shit like that? They don't even know what that is. So be happy that you're selling the pork roll because there's a diner down the block and they're easily going to walk in there and grab it. Yeah. So that comes another subject matter. He's from South Jersey. I'm from North Jersey, and we say Taylor ham. What'd you say?
We say pork roll down in South Jersey. The big debate. The big debate. Just like here, we'll get another debate here. Just like the gravy versus tomato sauce. Okay, so in South Philly, it's gravy. In North Jersey, I'm assuming. In New York, it's sauce, right?
It depends on who you ask because if my parents are from Italy and we say gravy, it's not a Jersey thing. It's from them. So mommy always said, and everybody in this area always said, it's gravy because we make it from meat.
Right.
There's meat in the sauce, which makes us call it gravy. If there was no meat, we would call it marinara or marinara. Mm-hmm. So that's the sauce.
Yeah.
There's the theory. Taylor makes pork roll. Mommy makes gravy.
Like that.
He's very young. This guy's 6'7". Let's all the way go back to when you fucking all of a sudden became 6'7". We're talking junior high, high school. You had to have been playing basketball.
Oh yeah, I played high school basketball. I played college basketball, and I probably would get yelled at if I didn't play basketball because of my height. They said, "What the hell are you doing with yourself? You're 6'7". You got to do something."
So, what was your position?
I was a power forward.
Right.
And I played for a very prestigious high school down in South Jersey, St. Augustine Prep. And they were in competition with some of the top tier powerhouses up here. Like you got Rossell Catholic up here, Bergen Catholic, got a lot of great high schools up here, basketball programs. And St. Augustine down in South Jersey, we were neck and neck with a lot of these programs for years. So I got really good exposure playing down there. I was a power forward. My growth spurt came, I want to say, my sophomore year of high school. I went from I don't know how the hell it happened. I don't know if I was eating steroids or whatever. Probably not. But I was 6'1" when I graduated 8th grade. And by my sophomore year of high school, I became 6'5", 6'6". And that's when my big spurt came. And I think I put another 1.5 inches my senior year of high school into college.
Wow, that's tall, man. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Got a younger brother. He's catching me.
Oh, okay. He's getting that tall too,
He's getting that tall. I mean, I'm 28. He's 23. He might be done growing. I don't know, but he looks like he's my height. I'm like, yo, stop growing, will you? I still want to look tall, you know.
Can't be a bigger brother if you're the same height.
Yeah, exactly.
No sisters?
No sisters.
So it's just the two of you guys?
Just me and my younger brother.
All right, so if you're going through junior high, high school, and college playing basketball, why not head out to the pros?
That's a good question. I actually I got a lot of offers to play in college from different places. A lot of I went to an exposure camp throughout my junior summer going into my senior year, after my junior year, and I got a lot of letters in the mail from different interests from different schools, all over East Coast, blah, blah. So I ended up going into Sales University, which is out in Center Valley, PA, which, for those of you are familiar, it's like Ben Salem out there and Bethlehem, and Quakertown area. I went there for a year, came back home down to South Jersey and played at Stockton University down there, which was the Richard Stockton College of New Jersey. When I was there, they converted over to a university, so now it's Stockton University. I always had the idea of wanting to get into, maybe playing overseas, and I look back and I said, maybe could I have played the pros, but to make the NBA is very, very difficult. First of all, you got to be a standout college player, and you got to be like at a Division I level, and not saying nothing's impossible. I don't want anyone to get it confused. You could still achieve anything, from what level you came from. But the highest level of exposure is always Division I. Maybe that's because why you see that on TV, you see it on ESPN. You watch a college basketball, you watch Louisville, Kentucky, Kansas, it's all Division I, Duke, right? So a lot of guys, what they do, if they don't have that major exposure level, they'll try to go overseas. They can play in Europe, they can play in Italy, they can play in Belgium. I know friends of mine that played overseas and made good money too. So it's not that I never wanted to do it. I just don't think at the time, I was able to get that exposure. Now I think about it nowadays, I'm like, it would have been cool to go overseas for a couple years. It would have helped me with my career, would have helped me with anything, But it's just not something that I did personally. But I always knew that I wanted to get into media and radio. I went to Stockton University and graduated with communications and media studies. And I actually had my own show on campus. It was I want to say it was 92.1 Lake Fred Radio, which was on 91.4 Lake Fred Radio on the college campus. Had an own show I did every week on Monday nights from 7 to 8. I'd play music. I have a co-host with me. And then something sparked me when I got out of college, and I said, I want to do something where, I'm in media and radio. I said, this is my personality. I can talk to anyone. I can talk to that wall over there, and I can have a conversation for an hour. I can talk to anybody. And I'm like, this is my bit. This is what I'm going to do.
But you really didn't want to go overseas and play college ball? I mean, or whatever it was, ball, because you get that experience.
I did. I did. Like I said, I wish I would have, looking back on, I wish I would have tried a little bit maybe to hook up with an agent or get involved with that. So what, not that it was out of the question. It didn't happen for me, but I would have loved it. Looking back on it now, you never want to look back and say, I wish I could have, right? But it's something that I would have enjoyed. I would have liked to try to travel the world.
So you get into this wanting to be a performer. See, to me, it's a performer. Everybody wants to be a performer, even if it's radio, if it's Broadway, if it's dance, it's performing. It's a personality. You're becoming a personality on the radio, like, let's say, Howard Stern. Mm-hmm. And this is your goal or what you set out to do. So pursuing that and having fun with that in college, it's all great. I never did that. When I was in junior high and high school, I always just wanted to be an actor. However, I was a class clown, and I always pulled pranks on people, so that basically let me know that I could be funny without hurting people, and I enjoyed doing that.
Right.
But I never wanted to get into radio. I just want to do live performing. Now with my own podcast, Live from My Mother's Basement, I enjoy it more because I can meet people, I can get sponsors, and I can keep my level of appearances as a stand-up comic bigger than I could if I didn't do it.
Right.
And I enjoy it too because I do get to meet people. I've hosted many live events anyway, which is a really specific art form because the master of ceremonies controls that evening. And if you stink, everybody else is going to stink. But if you're good, you can actually make everybody have a great time because I love doing that type of a thing. So where is your highest exposure now? Where can we find you on the internet and listen to your programs?
So I'm at a local radio station down in South Jersey, and I also convert that into a podcast platform as well. So I'm on YouTube as the Big Man Show Live on YouTube. So all my podcasts, all my shows get uploaded to there, and you can like and subscribe, and you can go on there and find all my shows from the previous seasons and this year and in this season. Also, I'm on Instagram. All right, the Big Man's Report _live. So you can go on there. You can find me. I put up all my daily content. Who's going to be on my show in the following weeks. So I try to keep a good steady pace with that. Eat daily, and upload that stuff.
So obviously they call you the Big Man because you're a very big man.
Yeah.
6'7". Is your father that tall?
My father's actually, for the Italian side of his family, he's 5'10". So that's one of the tallest Italians you're gonna get, right? But my mother's side carries all the big genes. Like her father, my grandfather, God rest his soul, was 6'4". Her brothers are 6'2" and 6'5".
How tall is your mom?
My mom's 5'9".
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's how you mix and match, and you come out with somebody who's 6'7". Holy shit. Okay. Ever been married? Got kids? What are you doing?
Not married, no kids. Had some girlfriends in the past. Fortunately, didn't work out. But
single guy.
Single guy.
Single guy. All right. So here we have a 6'7" single guy, handsome, lives down in Margate area. What's the town you're in now?
Margate, New Jersey.
Oh, Margate.
You just say Atlantic City for these people. They might be able to hear it better.
Right. Atlantic City.
Atlantic City.
AC. My mother used to go on the bus all the time. Ma, where you going? AC, with the older ladies. They would take a bus, go down there and gamble.
Down to AC. Yeah. I remember, yeah.
Their favorite thing is they would go gamble for a couple hours, and then they went to this place for lunch. It was a deli. It was, I think it was called Pickles, maybe. It was famous in Atlantic City, right on the boardwalk. It's not there anymore. It was inside, I think, Bailey's.
Okay.
Or maybe one of those places. I hope they're all thriving. I did a lot of filming down in Atlantic City. I love it down there. I got to get back down there and do a special. I've actually been doing some stand-up with Joe Gorga, who's on the Jersey Housewives.
Yeah.
He and I really should go do a big special in Atlantic City. I mean, he's got his crowd. I got my crowd. There'll probably be a riot. We get the big man to come and you could film it and put it on the radio station all
There
at the
we go.
same time. Have you wanted to do and have you done live performances?
I've thought about that, like, and with like going back to what I was saying about getting on the radio and being on, like a personality on air. I've always wanted to be like on camera too. I even had like aspirations to maybe even be like a news anchor, or be behind the camera, be on a local station. South Jersey had TV 40 for years until it closed down in 2013. The local weather, sports, all the updates, and then now the bigger markets in Philly now, closest to South Jersey. You got CBS Philly, Fox 29 Philly, 6 ABC Philly. So I've always thought about being on camera as well. I just, not only people hear my voice, but they could see me.
Well, one of the hardest things to find as a stand-up comedian is the master of ceremonies to be in the show with you. It's very difficult because when the first person walks on stage, let's say you're in a comedy club and there's 300 people. The first guy walking out on stage, if he's not famous, if he's not from a radio show, if he's not well known, people don't pay attention because they're waiting for the closing act. They figure, let's order some drinks while the first guy's performing. So it makes it very difficult for the first person because no one's paying attention. And if you just start telling some jokes, they're really not going to pay attention. The master of ceremonies has to have the skill of going, good evening and welcome to the show. Wow, we got a great show lined up for you tonight. This is what's going to happen. And I'm glad that you're here. And then you start talking to people. And you make them ready, get them ready, get them ready. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the next performer. And everybody's ready. And it's so difficult to find somebody who could do just that. I love doing it. I could do it in lightning speed because I'm a headliner and I know how to talk to people. But usually the master of ceremonies is somebody new because they're the sacrifice. Then the next person going on stage has to have equally that amount of power so that the headliner really just has to start performing. So if you want to be a master of ceremonies and start getting on some shows and showing your face that way, I know a headliner who can make that happen for you. I'll throw you to the wolves. You want to get on stage in front of 1,000 people and say, holy shit, good evening. And you could have some fun.
I would like that.
And you have a strong presence, and besides, you're 6'7", ain't nobody gonna mess with you. And I could come out on stage and go, give it up for my hitman. Don't mess with him. Not only is he a good host, he'll follow you back to your car. So we could try something like that. And I think if you're feeling happy about that and that's something you want to do, start rehearsing.
Okay.
You could rehearse on your own show by being a master of ceremonies, but the most difficult way to rehearse and the traditional way to rehearse and what you should do is you got to go to open mics.
Open mic nights.
Even if being a comedian is something you don't want to do, getting on stage in front of a bunch of people who would rather make fun of you than watch you do well is an unbelievable great experience. Because although it might not make you happy, you have to do it.
Right.
Just like a bodybuilder going to the gym. You probably just want to compete. But if you don't go to the gym and work out, you're not going to look so good when you get on stage. This is the same thing.
Yeah.
It really is the same thing. I hate going to the gym. That sucks. But I want to look good. So I do my best. And I work out down here in the basement. And what do I do when I want to get some great advice? I call our mutual friend, Peter Gaudio, and we say, hey, Pete, can you tell me what I'm doing wrong?
Give me some pointers, Pete.
Yes, and you know exactly what somebody like Peter Gaudio is going to say, who's an unbelievable trainer. He's been on many magazines, Mr. New York, and he's competing to get on Muscle and Fitness right now. We want to have him on this show. He's in a great TV series called Gravesend. Pete is going to say, training starts in the kitchen. And what did we just got done saying to each other before we did this little pre-record? We're going to get some sandwiches
Exactly.
at a sub shop, which is not something you should do if you want to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, listen, I'm guilty of it too. I grew up being an athlete, working out 5-6 days a week when I was in my college basketball days. I was real lean. And I'm like, man, as soon as I got done playing, I'm like, whew, I really hit the fan quickly, didn't it? I said, I'm trying to get myself back. Cut some weight and put some muscle back on, and trim out a little bit.
When you played basketball in college, did you play alongside of, or were you close to people who became famous basketball players?
That's a great question, and yes, I have. So my senior year, I played against
At what school?
at St. Augustine Prep. My senior year, we actually played St. Joseph Metuchen. It was up here in your backyard. And the I want to say the semi was a semifinal game of my senior year in the state playoffs. Well, who do we face? Carl Anthony Towns, who is
really?
who's 7 foot, and he's currently the starting center for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm watching this guy on ESPN. I had to cover this guy about 10 years ago. So his shoe was like about a 16. They think I'm tall. And I'm looking up at him like, just whatever you do, just don't try to score on me. Just pass the ball away. Don't go near me. And actually, but he was a hell of a player. I mean, they threw the ball up to him. He just dunked it with two hands. It was easy. He could shoot threes. So and that was the last senior game or game ever in high school I've ever played. And his team knocked us out of the tournament. He had a couple other good players. There was a kid that played at Vanderbilt named Wade Baldwin. I think he went on to play in the NBA as well. But Carl Anthony Towns, you look him up. He's one of the top players in the
But
league.
he wasn't famous, of course, when you guys were in college.
Well, in high school, no, he was up and coming. He was getting noticed.
You could tell he was
Yeah.
going to be a giant.
Yeah, he was getting noticed by big schools, and I think he only did 3 years. He actually didn't even finish. So when I was a senior, he was a junior, and he didn't. I don't think he completed his last year.
Got drafted.
Some kind of thing. Well, he went to play. He went on to play at Kentucky, I believe. So for a year, and then he got drafted into the NBA, and now he's going against Joel Embiid on the Sixers and Philadelphia Sixers, and he's having a good career. So one famous guy I played against, maybe a couple others, but I
There
can't
probably
remember.
a couple of famous
Yeah.
guys are going to come out of the woodwork in the future. You know what's really wild? When I watch basketball, and I don't really watch basketball that much, but I watch basketball, I feel like going, hey, wait a minute. Shouldn't they make the basket net a little higher? It looks a little easy for some of these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You get a guy my size, 5'7", and you make me play basketball on the same height net.
Oh, 10 foot, yeah, 10 foot.
Why don't you lower it for a guy like me? Maybe I wouldn't be such a bad player. So when you watch the NBA, you feel like going, this guy don't really have to jump. He just puts it in.
Nope.
Can't you make it higher?
Yeah.
Raise it up.
Maybe the NBA should raise it to 11 feet, make it a
Yes,
little bit more of a
do something
disadvantage for them.
different.
Yeah.
These guys are running up and down the court and dunking the ball.
Oh, yeah.
It's too easy. Then they pay 'em millions of dollars. Let's make it more difficult and pay them a lot less money. That's my idea.
Yeah, you got to be challenged a little bit more, right?
Right. Well, then they go on and do commercials. I'm like, come on.
Well, they got the Pepsi commercials. They do all the, they get all those funny commercials. They do all those funny things. I know the one player does State Farm commercials, Chris Paul. He does all this, the State Farm and all that stuff. So they make the money other ways too. You know.
I wish I could get a nice big fat endorsement.
Yeah.
I'll get them. See the Zapala mix? That's one.
I like that.
Get yourself some Zapalas. They've been a sponsor for many different shows that I've been doing, and I'm pretty happy to have them along with me. Don't you have some cool-ass sponsors you want to do a shout-out for?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So down my way in South Jersey, and every year I always thank my sponsors for supporting me. I support their business. So we have Castle Supermarket of Margate, which
Now,
is...
wait a minute. We were talking about this on your podcast.
Yes.
Castle Supermarket of Margate.
Yeah.
I never heard of Castle Supermarket. Is that like a food town or a ShopRite?
So it's basically the local mini mart in Margate. We're a
Oh,
short town.
okay.
Yeah. So it's not equivalent to an Acme or a ShopRite or a Giant.
So they're going to have more quality, better quality.
Yeah, better quality, fresher.
See, I know where I'm going with this. Fresh tomatoes,
Oh, yeah.
fresh corn, fresh heads of lettuce. I've never been there. I could just imagine.
Mm-hmm.
This was what makes a lot of local people say, why would you go anywhere else? This is the place to be. And who doesn't like fresh, Jersey-grown, big, fat, bigger than your head tomatoes? So you get that nice, big, fat slice, and you only need one for your sandwich. Am I making you hungry? And then
I'm
the
thinking about it.
buffalo mozzarella.
Oh my God.
You can
Right.
have that as a meal. Little oil and vinegar, throw on a little garlic powder, some salt. You shut your mouth. and you eat. Where'd you get it again? Say the name.
Castle Supermarket of Margate.
Castle Supermarket of Margate. Margate, the small town on the Jersey Shore. This place is fantastic, folks. I've never even been there, but I can tell. These are the type of places that I love to promote and go to because it's just home.
Oh, yeah.
It's family. Do they serve sandwiches in there?
They have sandwiches too.
They got the deli. So you grab your tomato, you grab the mozzarella that I'm talking about, then you go get yourself some sliced turkey, mortadella, salami, super sad. Am I right on the money?
Oh,
with
you're
this
right.
place?
Yeah, but also not only does Castles have this, I have to give a shout out to Maz's Market, an Italian coffee
Oh,
house.
okay.
You want to talk about the mozzarella and all the gabagool and the capicola. Listen, Maz's Market, Gino down in South Jersey has he'll make you a fresh sandwich right there. He has the fresh Jersey tomatoes. He's got all the Italian specialty coffees, cappuccino, espresso, anything you can think of. He's got them all. And he also has great fresh pies baked daily. And Gino's been the best. His business is down the road from my mother's business, and she goes in there for a cup of coffee every morning before she goes in.
What's your mother's business?
She owns a gymnastics academy.
A gymnastics academy?
Gymnastics academy.
Really?
Yep.
Am I saying it wrong?
No, gymnastics school. Basically, gymnastics school academy.
Gymnastics?
Yep. So
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics with an N.
Gymnastics.
Yep.
This is great. We got to go down to your friend's deli. We're going to bring some Zapala mix. And we're going to see if we can't get them to put it on the shelves in there. This way we get a local sponsor for a huge show that we're going to do together in Atlantic City. See the way this shit works, ladies and gentlemen? I know what I'm doing. What'd you say your name was? I'm just fucking around. But this is really, really great idea. And I wish I took gymnastics so that I could have some kind of a limber body. I'm so stiff, man.
We'll get you some lessons. I'll tell my mom we'll put you in a class. And
That is
we'll do
hilarious.
some cartwheels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Funny story about that, Mike.
Pinwheel.
I tried a class when I was younger. My mom put me in one class, and I was too tall. And I said, she goes, "You ain't." You know what? She tried. She had me try it, and I'm like, "This ain't for me." Because actually there are male gymnasts, obviously, and if you ever see these guys in the Olympics, you watch the Olympics. These male gymnasts are about like 5'4", 5'5", and their arms are like this. And I'm like, man, these guys are freaking built, man. And they're strong. My mother actually went to Indiana University, Division I scholarship for gymnastics, and almost went to the Olympics back in the 80s. Almost went to the Olympics. My mom's 5'9" gymnast. They always told her she was too. So a lot of people told her, you're too tall, Tracy. You can't do gymnastics. And she shut everybody up, and she became a star. And I love my mother. Yeah, she's the greatest.
I'd give anything to be able to do a backflip. I just want to do a backflip, man. I want to stand in front of somebody who wants to fight me, you know? Like, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm like, not a problem. And then just do a backflip. I'm like, yeah, I've been training MMA, so let's go. And I think if you were getting in a fight with somebody and did a backflip, they'd run.
Oh, yeah.
I'd run. If I saw somebody go, hoo-ah, and did a backflip, I'm like, please, I was only kidding. Don't kick my ass.
Yeah, after that point, you're like, you know what? I'm going to have second thoughts about this.
Right. Well, if you had the best of both worlds, being a personality on the radio where the people can't see you, or would you be a personality on some major show where the people actually can see you?
I would have to go with where people can see me. I think I have an overbearing presence. I'm tall. I think I'm charismatic. I got a good, I just have a good feel, I think, for the camera. And I think that's something that I would see myself doing, probably on camera.
Be on camera going, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Today we're going to blah, 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 blah. Right?
Absolutely.
I enjoy doing that myself. I've been doing that since I'm a kid, man. Yeah. I remember we used to go water skiing down on the Jersey Shore, and when the skier would get in the boat, I'd put up my VCR camera, and I'd grab a sneaker, and I'd pretend the sneaker was a microphone. I'd go, you busted your ass out there. You came around, you skied, you fell. When you fell, you bounced on the water. We couldn't stop laughing. Tell us how you feel. And I'd hand them the sneaker. And you see one of my friends going, oh, my nuts, I'm all fucked up. And there, right back to you, Charlie Chan. So it's nice to see all these great things happening to, so many famous people come out of New Jersey.
Yeah.
This state probably produces more famous people than any other state. And I always said, because people live hard here and they come up with stuff that's just phenomenal. So if you were to name so many different entertainers that came from this state and a lot on the Jersey Shore.
Absolutely.
So, of course, Bruce Springsteen, Danny DeVito, Danny Aiello. The list just goes on and on.
How about our dear friend, pastime Frank Sinatra, Hoboken.
Frank
How could we
Sinatra,
forget Sinatra?
Whitney Houston,
Oh yeah, Whitney Houston.
Queen Latifah. This is all Newark, New Jersey. And Danny DeVito went to high school in Asbury Park. He went to Asbury High.
Wow.
And now he's the face and the voice of Jersey Mike's, which I was hoping they were going to pick me.
Yeah. Jersey for Jersey Mike's.
Yeah. I wanted to be Jersey Mike. I mean, come on, my name's Mike.
His name's Mike.
I like a good sandwich.
Yeah, you fit it perfectly.
Yeah, right. I had my slogan: "Go to Jersey Mike's, or we'll come get you." Wasn't that a nice slogan? No, I'm looking. I actually have a wrapper from the original Jersey Mike's.
Wow, look at that.
Look at how old this is. Mike's Giant Subs. This is the one that was in Belmar, and the guy who owned this one still owns this one. He was with the other guy, but he decided he didn't want to be part of the franchise. Could you imagine?
Wow.
Imagine telling McDonald's, "Nah, I don't want to be McDonald's."
Yeah, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. I didn't know. So let's hope that all happens to us.
Absolutely.
So tell everybody one more time where they can find you all over the internet as a nice big plug. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my cool-ass pre-records. And when you guys are watching this show, I hope you will join my friend on his social media platforms so that you could begin following him and listen and or watch his shows. Go for it.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you again for having me on. I really appreciate it. So, the Big Man's Report Live on Instagram. I'm the Big Man's Report Live _ okay, or _ live. So at the Big Man's Report _ live on YouTube. I'm the Big Man Show Live on YouTube. Just look me up in the search bar, and you can find all my content and everything. Facebook, I'm Blake Rossell, Rossell. I share all my content to Facebook as well. But if you really want to follow what I'm doing, I'd say go on my Instagram. Instagram's taking over.
Instagram's the thing, man.
It's the thing. It's taking over. You got reels, videos, posts, news releases, everything. You can do everything on Instagram. The Big Man's Report _ live. All right. Give me a follow, give me a like, and give me a subscribe on YouTube as well. Thank you,
send him some tomatoes, some mozzarella, and some sandwiches. We're going to be doing some shows together. I can feel it happening. But listen, folks, we got to get going. I hope you enjoyed tonight's or today's pre-record, depending on when it comes out, because we have no idea. I want to thank my producer, Tatiana Blue Shell, for always making my podcast one of the greatest podcasts I could ever be part of. Thank you so much. If you guys think that maybe you'd like to be part of the podcast, just write to Tatiana and say, "I think I'd like to be a guest on Mike Marino's Live from My Mother's Basement podcast." And that email address is MikeMarinoEntertainment@gmail.com. Say hello to Tatiana. I want all my fans to stay in touch with me at MikeMarinoFans@gmail.com, and all my social media is at Mike Marino Live. You can stay in touch with us on iTunes, Google, Spotify, Anchor. This show is also going to be on Italian American radio in New York City. You won't get to see how gorgeous we are, but you'll get to listen to that portion of the show. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and we could use some extra money on Patreon. We're always looking for sponsors. Write to me at MikeMarinoLive@gmail.com. We got to get going. Remember, everybody, let's make America Italian again. And you know my motto: you don't know nothing, you don't see nothing, you don't say nothing. And how do I end every single one of my broadcasts? By saying the same thing with my guest: don't take no shit from nobody. You ready?
Yeah.
Don't take no shit from nobody. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying watching my podcast live from my mother's basement. We're having a lot of fun, and I'm going to have a lot of great guests on the show in the future. So if you like it, hit like. You could also leave a comment. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch other funny videos. And you could also listen to my podcast on your favorite podcast app like Spotify and iTunes.